Welcome to the Accounting Technology Fireside Chat Podcast. Now, sit back and enjoy while Nick and Trevor help you use your technology to make money and delight your clients.
Well, good morning, Trevor, and welcome back to the Accounting Technology Fireside Chat Podcast. How are you?
I am awesome, Nick. Awesome. Well, I don't know. Yeah, busy. Really busy at work at the moment. I think. I think, and be quiet, but I think the economy's on the move.
Oh, careful. Don't want to make predictions like that.
No, but I just feel really good at the moment. I feel there's lots of good stuff going on in the world, and yeah, there's a lot of federal budgets happened last night for all the accountants out there, busily squirreling all over it to see what's going to happen in their world. I'll wait for someone else to do that and tell me all about it.
I was going to say, what's your takeaway from the budget? But you won't have any yet because nobody's told you.
No. A couple of tax cuts, a few things here, usual $1,080 bits and pieces. I still like and I always have liked the concept of investment, where people make investments in tech and machinery and trade and all of those things. I think by extending that's a good thing to do. It moves things in the right way. It gets people to gear up to what they want to do. The trainee stuff too, extending the trainees. I've had some amazing success with that. And we've got to really move in that space. So, we talk about it often coming from the accounting profession where, everybody's got to have qualifications and so forth, and moving into the IT space where, Microsoft and Google grab people out of university and get them into traineeships and get them into that space because they want them in the market quicker. They don't want them hanging around in university for 4 years or stuff like that. And we've got to really think about that differently going forward. We're going to...
Not just that. My wife's doing a computer science degree, and as you know, I work in professional IT, and half the stuff she's learning there it's either dated or it's not used, and so they're not setting them up for a professional career. They're setting them up with a bunch of theoretical knowledge, which is, kind of cool if you're doing really obscure stuff, but doesn't really help in most of the commercial world.
No, and I finished my accounting degree, 4 years of accounting, walked out in my graduate position, had no idea what I was doing. I was like, man, I learned nothing from that 4 years that I spent out in the real world.
Is that a reflection on the 4 years or a reflection on you, Trevor? I just don't know.
Oh, well, I'm not the only one that says that. I'm not the only one that says that. Phew, that was quick.
Look at me go. It's 7:30 in the morning. I'm already on fire.
It's something that everybody says. They come out and they do their accounting qualification. They walk in, they go, well, they didn't teach us any of that. They teach you how to research. They teach you how to go find things, but there's so much, and that they can do. And I'm hearing that there has been some movement in the space that your accountants, that they come out, they are ready to go. But the experience I've had the last year and a half with trainees. And in our space, in the tech space and so forth, has been nothing short of phenomenal. I'm really impressed with it.
What's funky is when I grew up, accountants didn't do accounting degrees, right? Accountants went and got a job straight from school in an accounting firm, and they were trained, with some external training, and the accounting, the Institute of Chartered Accountants or the Institute of Practicing Accountants qualified them. So those are and that's the same for surveyors and all sorts of people that do that kind of stuff. So
your trades, all of your trades is the same, yeah.
Well, I would have said accounting's more a trade than something else, and just because it is, right? I'm not being rude.
It's a skill, yeah.
It's a set. You do something. You're a skilled person who do a set of skilled things, and it's not academic. It's a set of techniques and skills, right?
Exactly, but you lived on a little island called Guernsey, and we live now on a little island called Australia. And I suppose that's the point. We've got a skills shortage. We've got a workforce shortage coming our way, and we're really hearing that in the marketplace. And I think the industry has to think differently about how we go and get that shortage up. Always, that whole concept of people said to me, how do you feel about offshore employment, and employing people from overseas and stuff like that? I think it's a good filler. I don't think it's something you should bank your industry on, because who are going to be your managers of the future if they're not learning the basic skills when they start their careers? So got to think about those things. But let's talk at something. Last week we said we were going to get into a bit more deep dive into document management, and one of the things that I spoke to you about was that whole concept that an accountant has a lot of trouble with, is where you've got a document management system, and the document management systems are designed in a way to get your documents straight into the document management area. But because there's so many documents in there, they find it hard to manage that. And I asked you, I said, how do we combat that? How do we work with our documents in an environment that's very easy to work in? And then, so that we can then file them in the right spot. So, because we spend a lot of time gathering documents. We've got to sort them in the right format. We've got to tag them. We've got to attach them to work papers. We've got to move them around a lot. And I've had a lot of feedback from people who have said that once it's in the document management system, which is great, it's in there, they've found it really hard to work with and find again and so forth. So what are your thoughts?
Wow, there's a whole bunch of things to unpack there. Well, let's start with the stuff we do when we're working on a client account. So, quite often you'll want to, go and gather a bunch of papers, build your work papers. You don't want to be doing that necessarily in the document management system. You want somewhere else to do it, right? Yep.
So I've got some ideas on but you want somewhere else to do it, because there's probably some documents in there you may not need to put into the document management system, and it's confusing when it's all in there. You've got to sort them by years. You've got to sort them into certain categories. You've got to get them into a place that you can work with them as well. So they've got to be local. You've got to have access to them locally. You've got other applications like Xero work papers you've got to upload documents into, and I find that gets a bit hard if it's already in the cloud.
So in this stage, OneDrive's your friend. Right?
Yep.
So and I'm gonna stick to Office 365 because it's what I know. There's probably analogies in G Suite and other things, but I know Office 365. So OneDrive's your friend. When anybody gets Office 365, Business Premium or Enterprise, each of your staff members get a terabyte of space in their own OneDrive. And that's kind of the same. If you remember when you had servers, everybody had their own home drive.
Yep. Yeah, their P drive or whatever it was. That was what we called it. And
yep. So people go, but I want to work with it on my PC, and I go, well, that's horribly risky. Because PCs fail and drives break and you can lose your work and all sorts of things. How about we do it somewhere where it's backed up? So first of all, OneDrive is a place to put files that allows you to synchronize it with your PC.
Yep.
Okay, and what that means is all of the files look like they're on your PC, as well as being backed up and synchronized live with the cloud. That's a good place to be.
Hey, the new version of OneDrive does it automatically, or do you have to turn it on to synchronize your documents, your downloads, and your desktop?
That's a Windows 10 thing. So Windows 10 will automatically synchronize your desktop, some of your files. Basically, if you're an Office 365 customer and you were to drop your PC in Sydney Harbour, for example, and you wander up to Harvey Norman and go get a new laptop and log in with your Office 365 account, in not very long, everything reappears as if by magic.
That sounded like something you've done before.
Many times.
In fact, PC in the Sydney Harbour.
But I do a lot of development, a lot of early stage stuff, and I totally had to rebuild my PC this week from scratch. And I decided to do it in work hours because I'd normally do something like that overnight. And at 9 o'clock, I hit the rebuild the PC from scratch button. And at 10 o'clock, I was able to hop on a Teams call with a customer using that device with everything I needed there.
Yeah, I'm the same. I go hit reset probably every 3 to 6 months, on my PC. I just wipe everything away. There's nothing on it that I keep. Everything syncs and gets going again.
Yep. Okay, so where we are, OneDrive is your
back into OneDrive. Yeah,
back into OneDrive. That's where you do all that stuff.
And OneDrive in the last probably 5 years, the improvements they've made in OneDrive has been fairly, I think fairly phenomenal. I've got it constantly linked, and I'm probably syncing 3, 4, 5 drives regularly. And I don't get any of the synchronization issues anymore, anything like that. It just works.
It does, and it's taken 10 years to really
Yeah.
get it to that point, but it's really robust now. It works really well. I know, I use it for everything. I'm a real fan, and ever since they kind of got that sync tool starting to be right, it's become a really, really good solution. So it's your scratch pad, so you can treat it just like a local set of files and folders and do what you'd normally do with files and stuff. But then comes the point where you want to actually get that into your document library. You want to get that into your document management system. And if you open OneDrive on the web, which you can actually do from your PC, you go to the folder, which is OneDrive in your PC, and I'll just make sure I tell you what to do right. You click on a folder, you can click and choose View Online. And that will open up a browser, and that will take you all the way to the right bit of OneDrive, which is beautiful and lovely. So you can see it online. The reason you want to see it online is what we're going to do with online is you can then take those files and folders, and you can choose to move or copy them somewhere.
So you're not using it. Yeah, you're just going move, copy. You're not having to download or run.
You don't have to download it. Just all happens in the cloud. So when you hit copy to it, comes up with a list of locations. And you can see in there your document. If you're using, for example, Hub One, you see your Hub One Document Center. You can click on documents. You can browse to clients. You can go and find the client you want to drop it into, and you hit copy or move here, and it will move or copy those files and folders straight into your document management solution.
And it's not running that process of downloading it to your PC and uploading it into your PC. So you're not using any bandwidth or anything. It's going straight to it. And you know, that whole movement and so forth has just changed dramatically. I do it a lot. I actually, just found it by default, and I also do it within Teams as well, that move functionality, move between teams and all that. Whereas you used to have to go, I've got to download it, and then I've got to upload it, and I've got to do those sort of things.
Yeah, you don't need to do that anymore, which is just super cool, right?
Yeah. But you can't. But that functionality that you get from OneDrive, if I'm not looking at the view online part, and I go and look in my let's talk about what's it doing when it is synced to my computer, and I open it with my file explorer, and I see all the clouds, and you've got your cloud, and then you've got the one that's being ticked and it's being downloaded. And then you've got the one where
let me explain the icons, because things that are in OneDrive have another, in Explorer, they have another icon called the status. Right? And I'll go through them. So if it's got a cloud, it's kind of showing you it exists, but it actually doesn't exist on your PC. It exists in the cloud. There isn't a copy on your PC. If it's got a cloud and a little person, it means it exists in the cloud, not on your PC, and you're sharing it with someone else. Okay, if you've got a green tick, it says there's actually a copy of it synchronized on your PC. All right, so if you just go and find one of those files with the cloud, double click on it, it will get a green tick and it will download, but you really won't notice that happen. It all happens in the background like it's just a local file.
Yeah, and what about the big solid tick? When would I ever use that?
I don't know. I don't know the difference between a big solid tick and a little green tick.
Well, you got the one where you can say always keep on this device, and it makes it a solid tick.
Yeah. So what you can do with these things is you can right click and you can say free up space. And what that does is that takes all the things that are synchronized locally, throws them back up to the cloud, make sure they're synced, and remove them from your machine, not removing them. You can then say, I actually want this to be local all the time. And that means if you're not connected to the net, you can actually get access to that file. So
you're flying on the plane and working on something. Yeah.
So there's also a padlock icon. So you can create folders that have settings which prevent it from syncing, and you will see you won't be able to sync that, but that happens very rarely. Okay, so you've got the cloud, you've got the green ticks. That's it. It's nice and simple.
And then you've also got version history is also local now as well, whereas version history used to have to be You used to have to run that in the PC, or is there a difference? Because I find I see more versions when I actually go into OneDrive online, when I'm working my versions out, and I go, oh,
Yeah.
I actually want to
So
go restore that.
So you might only have a certain number of versions of something on your PC, whereas in the cloud, you'll have every version you ever created. So for versions, what Office 365 does is when you save a file, if the file already exists, it saves that, and your new version is the one you see, but you can go backwards and forwards in time.
Yeah, and I've used that a lot. We've used that a lot.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, I do that a lot. But I love, and that's that whole thing. Get it in the cloud as fast as you can, because when you get in the cloud, it ramps up so many things. And using OneDrive to get it in the cloud is the fastest way to get it there. When you've got to work on stuff and things like protection, like protecting your documents, and you've got all the security around that. As soon as you get it into Office 365 and you get it into OneDrive and you get into those spaces, all of that turns on for you, doesn't it? It's immediate. You've got all of it.
But the other thing you get is ransomware protection.
So, fill me in on this one. I was going to ask you about this, but you've segued into it beautifully.
Oh, there we go. Look at me go. Look at me go. So, obviously everyone's, I assume, is familiar with ransomware, where you get this evil piece of software on your machine by some nasty person, and they actually go and encrypt all of your files, and you need to pay money to get them back. So it's a horrible thing. What you do when you've got your files in OneDrive, even if they're synced locally, is Microsoft give you what's called ransomware protection. And that means if your files get ransomwared, Microsoft will have a copy that aren't ransomwared. So if you make sure you store everything in OneDrive or your document center or SharePoint Online, one of those two places, you can never be affected as a business by ransomware.
Crazy, hey?
Which is
cool. We've beaten them.
Well, yeah, and the trick is version control, right? So Microsoft keep every historical version. Ransomware can't get to those versions. So Microsoft can rehydrate versions and get you back to how you were really quickly.
Yeah. And I find that a lot of people are a bit dubious about that. They seem to think, oh, well, I can't get it and all of that sort of stuff. And they go off and get some other virus protection, and they do all of these sort of things and have offline backups because they don't trust that Office 365. They have this thing that Office 365 can be hacked itself. Is that possible, that someone can actually hack into Office 365?
It certainly is. You need to put some protections around it. So you need to make sure you use multi-factor authentication into your Office 365. Yeah, otherwise people can get in. You could have a rogue employee go and do something and delete things and delete versions and all sorts of things. So the backup to other things is there. Office 365 protects you from most stuff, but the backup to other things is there as belt and braces if you have one of these real adverse events.
But what you've sounded like you've said is that they've actually got access to your system. They have to get access to it. They can't out of nowhere go, beauty, I've hacked Microsoft.
I can hack you, for example. Let me use an example. Let's say you don't have multi-factor authentication and you're Trevor at hub1.com, and you use that same username and password in Adobe Acrobat.
Oh, yeah, we talked about this the other week where you've had that.
And when Adobe gets hacked and that gets on the dark web, I've now got your username and password. I might as well try that with Office 365. And if that works, I'm then in and I've got the same rights as you. I haven't hacked Microsoft, I've hacked you.
Yeah, and how many people hate multi-factor authentication? I think they're getting used to it, though. But 3 years ago, when we said, let's turn on multi-factor authentication and do all this sort of thing, everybody lost it.
Their mind.
But anyway, they lost their mind.
People don't like things which they perceive make their life slightly more difficult, even for all the benefits it brings. So, but I think that's getting more and more things require it now. I think people are getting more and more used to it.
So, had an interesting conversation last week where with a IT technician who said, nah, I hate Office 365, never going to put it in here. We're going to have our emails on our local server because I've heard so many stories where Office 365 has been hacked.
I don't think you find Office 365 has ever been hacked, but okay. Well, you know why they do that. right? It's
Tell me how
really
I
quite
can
simple.
combat this argument, because the rest of the business wants to move, but the
Yeah.
IT technician is going, nope, we're
Well,
keeping our servers here.
first of all, never let an IT technician define your business strategy. You're smoking crack if you don't drive business strategy first. The second thing you should say is you need to have the conversation. If they're from a third party, you ask them how much money they make out of the two, right? So if I sell you Office 365, I make nothing. I don't make any money. I used to make some, but I don't. It was little, and you don't make any anymore. If I sell you a server every 5 years and backups and the administration and everything, I make like 100 grand out of you over those 5 years. Which, if you're in business, which one would you be encouraging your customers to do?
Office 365, because that's where I'm in business with. But I know what you're saying.
But you may want to get a opinion from someone who is not being who's an expert in the field, but is not being motivated by how much they can sell to you.
Yeah.
So I
this guy's internal.
Consultant. Well, yeah, because if you go to Office 365, he has nothing to do anymore. Right? Because
it's a really hard conversation to have with someone. I've just said, fine, we'll do all what we need to do. The thing that we're doing is we're doing a lot of Power BI dashboarding, and we're getting data off for them and all that sort of stuff. And I said, oh, so you've got Teams. So yeah, we had to put Teams on when COVID hit because we all wanted to work from home. Oh, okay, so that means you've got Office 365. No. We're not going anywhere near that. I've had so many horror stories that Office 365 has been hacked and people have lost this. And I went, really? Okay, this is not my time to have a conversation with you, who just, this hot-headed IT guy who walked in the room, wondered who the hell I was, and felt like discrediting me in front of everybody in the room. But anyway, that was...
Yeah, I'd probably be... I think his tenure is probably pretty limited, right?
Yeah. Don't know where it's coming from, but... Yeah, so I'm not the one smoking crack. That's the thing that you want to say.
No, you're not. And if you think about it, Trev, if you look at, there's in Australia, we've got 66 what we call enterprise accounts. That's the big end of town. There's people with 3,000 to 6,000, 9,000, 12,000 users who spend tremendous money on IT. 80% of them are running Office 365 now.
Yeah.
Right, and the rest are on their way. So when we watch the enterprise big end of town, like the banks, move to Office 365, I'm sure for a little firm like yours, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And in fact, the CIO of Combank got up on stage once and said, "There's no way on earth we can make our environment as secure as Microsoft make theirs." Right, so this guy's probably poorly informed.
Yeah, so I thought I'd run out of those conversations over the years, but I always get surprised along the way. Every so often I go, okay, we're back here again. I feel like I was 10 years ago.
If it was me and I was at a customer meeting and they said those type of things, I'd pack up and walk away and go find another customer. Because there's just no point having the conversation.
I did. I just said, okay, I'll do what I've got to do. I'm not here to go through that with you. And I think because I reacted that way, the other directors went, huh? What happened then? All right, so we've solved the situation. Now that's it doesn't matter what document management system you're doing, you need somewhere to work, and OneDrive gives you your workspace. OneDrive gives you the place to work. You still need to make sure you transfer your documents into the cloud. So we talked about moving them. So you've finished all your work papers, you've done everything you've done. You go, all right, now I'm finished. I'm going to move them into SharePoint. One of the things that, and a little bit of bias here, Hub One document management system does, the One Practice system, is it tags the documents on the way in when you're putting them in there. So you get a document, you scan it, you put it in. And we always thought, get them in, use the system, scan it like that, it'll put metadata on it. We've sort of flipped this a little bit now. When I get them in there, how do I tag them with the metadata to make sure I've got that if I ever choose not to use folders to go and find my document?
So when you move them, you get the ability to open that environment in online. So you open that SharePoint document center online. You can then open those files as a list and put in the metadata. Metadata is really, really important, right? You need to make sure you tag all your files because that helps you go and find them later. Now, some document management tools will do that for you automatically. When you're doing it this way, you need to go and do that by hand.
And it's not that bad. It's like, it is seriously like Excel copy paste when your documents are in a list. You just basically flick drop. So next week, because I want to dig into metadata. Cool. I really want to open that can of worms up, and I want you as a technician to tell me in terms of an accountant. Have folders? Well, no, we're never going to get away from folders. But I want to talk more about what the hell is a folder when it's in SharePoint.
Yeah.
Because we were going to talk about that today, but we didn't get a chance to do it. This whole 256K character limit and all of these sort of things, I don't understand at all. I've got a bit of an idea, but I want you to dive into that. And I want you to talk to me about metadata and why that helps when I've got my documents in a document center and helps me use my documents. So that's something that we can talk about next week.
Sounds cool. I look forward to it.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks, Trev. Thanks for coming along.
I've had another great session.
Excellent.
Boy, and if I'm learning something every day, everybody else has got to be learning something every week when I'm doing this.
There we go. So the big thing is, if you do like what you hear, please subscribe, hit a like button, leave a comment letting us know topics you'd like us to cover in the Accounting Technology Fireside Chat. So, Trevor, all that's left for me to say is have a good day.
Same to you, mate. Have a great one.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.